The Winter Olympics may be a couple weeks away from starting, but on today's show, we take a look at an exciting summer Olympic sport. Hello and welcome to Sports Talk. As always, I'm Tyler Sloan. The powerlifting season has begun, and we check in with all three McKinney ISD teams to hear about some of the early season results. Which schools showed more strength at the McKinney ISD Invitational only 10 days ago? We'll answer that question next on Sports Talk. Joined by McKinney powerlifting coach Glenn Williams, here to talk about the powerlifting season, which just begun about a couple weeks ago. You've only had one meet so far, so it's really in the early stages of the season, and you're really just setting the foundation for what's yet to come in the next couple of meets.
That's correct.
Going into the McKinney Invitational, your opening meet, it's obviously nice not to have to travel for that. You just have to go over with McKinney North hosting the event. What were some of your goals going into that meet?
Well, like I told the kids, I wanted them we didn't know for sure where we were. I just said, let's get some weight on the bar. Let's go over there. Let's do the best we can. Let's learn and let's compete and let's get better and have a great attitude about it.
Now, the majority of the guys that go into the powerlifting meets are football players and some track players as well. What are their real personal goals for competing in powerlifting?
Well, I think as far as a goal, I think it helps them continue to compete, go improve. Those are the things that we really focus on is improvement. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, and we use powerlifting, track, those kind of kids, they kind of commingle together, and it gives them a chance to go out, and if they can improve from the first meet to the next meet, that's what we're looking for.
What were your overall impressions of how they performed in the first meet? Where do you like at where they're at, and where do you think there's some improvement?
Well, I thought we did pretty well. We went over there and we had 11 kids medal. They give out the top 5 places. We had obviously a few kids that did better than others, but overall I thought as a group we did very well. We had a second place finish, and we had a third place finish, so there was some really good things that came out of the meet. We even had a 500-pound deadlifter for the first meet, and that's really good for the first meet to have a kid deadlift 500 pounds.
Yeah, there's all that sort of room to improve when you're at 500
Right.
pounds just to begin with.
And the kids were, I kind of was stressing, hey, let's not go overboard here, but they were really saying, Coach, I really feel like I can do this. Let me get the weight on there. I said, well, put it on there and let's go.
Yeah, you got to like the confidence.
Yeah, I like the attitudes they had.
You mentioned your second place finisher, Damon Harrison. He's in the 165-pound class. He had a good meet, obviously, with some stiff competition in that weight class. What do you look for him to do going into trying to make that regional meet and then maybe eventually a state meet?
Yeah, I think this next meet you're going to see a whole lot of improvement. And I know he's kind of sitting outside that top 10 right now, but if you look from where he is, I think 14th place to where second and third place is, it's really not that big of a difference. We're talking maybe anywhere from those lifters from 100 pounds or less. So that can be made up quite easily in the next meet.
Antonio Oliver is another guy who's a top 10, 15 lifter in his weight class at the moment. And Antonio, he's a talented football player. What kind of, does he transition that work ethic from football into powerlifting?
He does. He really enjoys the weight room. And so giving him an opportunity to go powerlift, compete, is something that he really enjoys, and it's something he knows is going to help him be a better overall athlete.
You also have Caitlin Strickland, who's a really good lifter. He's had a third place finish in the 245-pound class. Now, he's a heavier guy, so he's going to be lifting more weights than the previous two that we've mentioned.
Right.
How do you sometimes, with the guys that weigh more and are going to lift more, take those safety precautions to make sure that they're not going to overstrain their body?
Yeah, and we work on that daily. We stress technique. We stress on doing things the right way, using the proper equipment, belts, knee wraps. We provide suits for them. So we make sure that they're doing it correctly. We don't want them to do something that's going to harm them, because that kind of defeats the purpose. We always stress going out and doing things the right way, having spotters, and when we get to a meet, we want to make sure that we're lifting that weight correctly.
Now, unlike a lot of our other sports where there's different districts that teams are competing in, this is more or less a region competition. There's 6 regions, and then there's 3 divisions, and Division 1 is the 5A and 4A schools. So you're pretty much over 2 classifications competing against the same type of schools here in the North region. And it's not easy to find some of these meets. You only have really a 3-meet schedule on your season in this short 2-month span.
Right. Yeah, it's not really, powerlifting is a short season, and it's you know, if you're not hosting meets, a lot of times it's tough to get into those meets, and we do here at McKinney and Frisco and Highland Parks, and we really try to help each other out to provide those meets for those kids to go and compete.
Now, with these next couple meets that are coming up for your team, what kind of growth are you looking to see? How far do you want to push the envelope with some of these guys?
Well, I think what we're looking at is where they finished in the last meet on that 3rd attempt. If they were successful, that's where we're starting.
So you're just going to kind of go as, okay, this is the first building block. Now we're going to start with what we know you can do and expect you to keep, improving your gains from there.
Yeah. Again, you have to be real careful with that opener. Again, you can only go up, you can't go down. So, but we're going to look at starting on that 3rd attempt, and we usually communicate with the kids. Do you feel comfortable with this? And they'll usually tell you one way or the other. But typically, what we do is take that 2nd or 3rd lift that they attempted, and then we go from there. And that's how we kind of start that improvement phase.
And how much of a difference is there between what we're talking about with high school powerlifting compared to Olympic powerlifting that we see in the summer?
Yeah, it's this is the Texas High School Powerlifting Association. It's basically was started up by football coaches, and it's kind of unique. It's different than your Olympic powerlifting. You have the bench, you have the squat and the deadlift. There's not the Olympic moves that you're seeing on TV when the Olympics are on TV, watching that. 4 years. So it is a little different. It's something that most people don't really get to see unless you go to a meet, and they're a lot of fun. The parents get to sit there in the bleachers and watch the kids lift, and so it's a fun atmosphere.
It definitely is. Coach Williams, thanks again for joining us here today, and good luck on the rest of the season here in powerlifting.
Thank you very much.
Lions Powerlifting Squad had a great performance at the McKinney Invitational, and they're going to look to build on that with the rest of their season and try and get some regional qualifiers this year in Region 6.